Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Welcome to another video. Today we're going to be talking about Anthony Gordon. Newcastle and Everton have seemingly agreed a fee for the young England winger, and it does finally seem that Anthony Gordon is going to get his wish of a move away from Everton this January in a deal that is supposedly worth around about £45 million in total. We're going to be talking about this deal, about Anthony Gordon, the way that he's conducted himself over these past recent days, and of course how he may fit into this Newcastle side and everything else in between. But before we go any further, I would like to remind you all to please like the video and also subscribe if you're new. Both things always incredibly greatly appreciated. But for now, let's talk about Anthony Gordon, Everton, Newcastle, and everything else in between. Intriguing, this one, for a number of reasons. Mainly because obviously we know about Anthony Gordon. The past season and a half, he's really come onto the scene with Everton and in the Premier League. A bit of talk about him being highly rated, fair bit of potential behind him and everything. For me personally, I've not fully seen it. I'm not trying to be banterous or hyperbolic or anything along those lines when I talk about him in that way or about Everton in that certain way. But for me, I don't see him being worth this kind of money. And I do think there is something to him, to a little bit. He's got a fair amount of pace and speed behind him. Draws plenty of fouls. I think he is, for the most part, made of paper, so those fouls seemingly are a bit weak. But at the same time, it is still an asset to have a little bit if you're obviously the attacking team. Provides plenty of energy, got a fair bit of work rate behind him. Defensive contribution for a winger is pretty decent in that aspect as well. So there is something to him, but not to the extent that's being talked about, and not to the extent of I don't understand why this money is being paid, the amount of money and everything else in between. I get as a young player, I get that he can still grow and he can evolve, and maybe being at Newcastle with a better manager, a better team around him, and obviously with plenty of years to grow and gain experience and everything, he probably will become a better player. But for me, if he didn't have speed, I don't see it. If he didn't have speed, I just don't think he would be at this kind of level. The reports obviously came out today from the likes of Paul Joyce and Ben Jacobs and a few other people that have claimed that obviously the deal is now in process. A fee has been agreed between Newcastle and Everton. It's seemingly 40 million up front or some kind of structure around there with 5 million in add-ons. So it's finally got his wish. I say he's finally got his wish because obviously in recent days reports have been coming out that Gordon has allegedly missed training in protest that he wants to move away, and apparently Everton would only give him that move obviously if he wrote a transfer request in, which apparently he did, and obviously Everton were holding out for the right amount of money. And I've got to say this, I don't blame you if you really want to move away. I don't blame you if you're in this situation with Everton and you kind of see a bit of a sinking ship ahead of you and you kind of want to move away. But do it in the right way. Don't miss training in protest. Don't do that kind of stuff in protest to do it. I might be a bit hypocritical. I might have praised Harry Kane for supposedly doing that in the past, and maybe I was wrong to do that. Or maybe it's different in certain situations. But for this guy that's been at the club since he's 11 years old, claims it's his boyhood club, wants to, or grew up wanting to become an Everton icon, an Everton legend maybe, in that aspect, to then jump ship as soon as the going gets tough and not try and stick it out and not try and work hard or try and turn around the fortunes of that club, seems to suggest to me that, you know, if things don't work out at Newcastle, it could happen again. Maybe it's a bit of youth and immaturity, but maybe it's something ingrained within him, and maybe it's something that might again rear its head later down the line should certain things go a similar way, possibly. But be interesting to see, obviously, if that develops. Like I say, I don't really rate him in that aspect. I don't think he's that good to say he's apparently been worth 40 to 45 million. I think he's just got a lot of pace about him and a fair bit of defensive work rate, but for a winger, his output is poor. Now, maybe that is because he's playing for Everton and they lack a bit of firepower in front of goal and they lack a bit of a clinical edge in front of goal, maybe, but he's played just over 50 games in the past year and a half that he's been in the Premier League, and I think in that time he's scored 7 goals and assisted only 2 or 3 times. It's not good enough numbers for me if I'm looking at it. Like I say, maybe with some better players around him, obviously those numbers can be boosted up and bumped up a little bit. But for me, it's just not good enough. I don't really rate it good enough, and I think obviously under Eddie Howe, maybe there's the opportunity of getting better. We've seen what Eddie Howe can do with certain players already at Newcastle, the likes of Joe Linton and Miguel Almiron instantly spring to mind whenever you consider the hard work and everything that's been put into that Newcastle side since obviously Eddie Howe took over. So maybe there is something with Gordon that they've looked at and they see, obviously, like I say, plenty of speed about him, plenty of pace to his game as well. Very direct, very confident in his in whatever ability he has, and like I say, it can potentially work out, whether it be a stepping stone kind of player to help them get to that next level, to help them maybe maintain a top 4 push for this season, add a bit of depth to their squad going forward, and then maybe in a couple of years time look to maybe sell him on when he about hits his prime and maybe do some business in that aspect. Or maybe this is genuine long-term investment. Maybe this is genuine long-term improvement here. It'll be interesting to see how it works out at Newcastle for him. But for Everton, it's another kick in the teeth while they're down. This is a guy that, again, like I say, boyhood club, been at the club since he was like 11 years old or something. Kick in the teeth that obviously he's left the way that he has. He hasn't conducted himself in the best possible way for those Everton fans, especially whilst their luck is already down as it is, and they're staring down the barrel of yet another relegation battle, it seems. But it is a big recoup of money. It is a big transfer fee. The issue, though, obviously, is that Everton have notoriously not spent well in recent years. So it'll be interesting to see how that, or if that money is reinvested, what happens with that money. And of course, I wouldn't hold my hopes too far on it, because obviously this is the second biggest selling player in the past 6 months with Everton. When you consider Richarlison was sold for about 40 to 50 million or whatever it was in the summer. So again, a lot of money being brought in through player sales, but what are they going to do in the meantime with it? Now, of course, obviously Everton's managerial situation looks to be resolved. Reports are suggesting it's going to be Sean Dyche that comes in. Could be a smart move by Everton's point of view for at least a short term. A manager with Premier League experience, a manager who notoriously made his Burnley side difficult to beat at times, particularly when at home, and someone who knew how to get points when they needed it most for the most part. Of course, they might have run their luck a little bit too much towards the end of obviously his reign as Burnley manager, and obviously Burnley's reign in the Premier League when obviously it fell apart last season. But we'll have to wait and see how that develops. We'll have to wait and see how, on the money situation, the managerial situation, and obviously what unravels for the rest of the season with Everton. Like I say, for Newcastle, they add a player to their ranks. It adds depth, it adds speed, it adds pace, and it will just be interesting to see if maybe a better quality of manager will help him improve and will help him grow, and a better team around him will help him do that as well, and maybe he can boost his output a little bit more terms of numbers and statistics. But for me, not too crazy on this, not too going overboard on this particular deal. I think maybe from Newcastle's point of view, I think maybe there might have been better wingers out there for that kind of price range. But at the same time, like I say, it's another player that's interesting to an extent, and another player to add to Newcastle's ranks as they continue to explore ways to spend their lottery win, if you like. There's a bit of a lottery after all. But those are just the thoughts, comments, opinions, predictions, feelings, whatever you want to call it, of this guy. I want to know what you guys think. What do you make of this Anthony Gordon deal that is seemingly very, very close to being done, dusted, and confirmed? What do you make of Anthony Gordon? What do you make of Newcastle? And what do you make of Everton as well, on the receiving end of yet another player sale, and a big player sale at that, and a player, of course, who, like I say, in my opinion, didn't seem to really conduct himself in the best way to go about leaving the club. I'd love to know your guys' thoughts, comments, opinions, predictions, feelings, whatever you want to call it, on this particular topic down below in the comment section, because I'm sure it'll all make for interesting reading. Otherwise, hit the like button on the way up, enjoy the video, subscribe if you're new and want to see more content like this. Both things always and forever be greatly appreciated. And as always, thank you all so much for watching and listening. I've been Fletch, this has been another Fletch Talks video, and I'll see you all again soon in another video.